lot of commercial predator trapping. Did a lot of, when the prices were down, it was kind of hard to be a commercial trapper. Did a lot of just what I figured was keeping up with the coyotes, did a little predator control. I believe in snaring a lot. In fact, wherever I usually put a trap, I got snares. I believe in snares a lot. Whenever I set a coyote trap or a marten trap, if I don't have a snare there, the reason might be because I can't fit one in, or I ain't got a Gregerson deer lock with me and I'm in a deer yard. So I believe in snares a lot. They complement the snares, which I feel the traps complement the snares. I'm not going to say that I make the best snares. I'm real satisfied with what I make as compared to 10, 12 years ago when I was still buying them commercial. Commercial snares, I was finding I was missing a lot of animals that were walking through the loops. I don't make any basic or one size of snare. I make 48, 50-inch snare for fences. I make up to 12-foot snares for locations that I feel are going to need 12-foot. I don't make that much because of the cable, but the reason I do is some situations, instead of using a 3-foot snare and then maybe tying off with baiting wire, I feel it doesn't pay, so I just go ahead and use some snare wire instead. A lot of my snares, what I do on my home lines, one line out of stake, what I do too is I just leave them there. The end of my trap line, instead of picking them up, I leave them there. So I just flick them back and hide them in the bushes. So with having long cabled snares or long length of snares, when I need it, I don't have to worry about those snares being, if they're out there for a year or two and I haven't gone back, the baiting wire is going to get rusty, where if it's just a snare type with nothing but snare wire, it's going to be in good shape. I use all different kinds of snare locks. I only have two right now. I got cam locks for 1/16, kind of low on supply. I'll just go ahead. I'm not even going to measure this out. I'll just 5, 6 feet here. The one important thing with cable is got memory. The first thing I do when I cut the wire, I just kind of hold it. And what I mean by memory, I don't want to be twisting this wire. No, I don't want to be twisting it that way or back around this way. I want to keep it the same way it forms itself. I use mainly double ferrules, and I like to put a loop where I attach my lock. I think it gives me a better snare loop, a more rounder snare loop, which I usually like for most situations. This is 5/64 cable here, which I prefer. Like I said, the memories, there's not much to it. You know, unless you really twisted the wire back around, you should keep the same memory. But it is important. You don't want to. I do use snares a lot for marten for obvious reasons. One is they're so lightweight. There's one thing when I'm doing the ferrule here by the lock, that I make sure the cable, the cutoff cable here at the end, I don't want it sticking like it is there. I want it buried in the ferrule. Because right there, what's going to happen, you snare a coyote or a cat around the neck, it's obvious it's going to cause a lot of fur damage with that part of the cable sticking back. So I make sure that it's all in the barrel. I put a pretty small loop on the lock part of the cable. See right there, I got it very good. I was going to bring one from the Jeep, but I did. For years, I hammered my ferrules on my snares. And didn't see no ill result. It just sometimes I did screw up the memory. It wasn't often that I did that, but with the hammering on a anvil, sometimes I noticed that I would go to hang the loop and it just wouldn't hang right. Exactly. And what I ended up doing with a lot of those, I'd use them as extensions because they weren't good for a snare no more. So it's definitely worth it to get a crimper. And I've devised a little bench that I use that I can stick the crimper on and I just kind of have it standing on the floor there next to me. I'm watching TV. That's usually when I make my snares. I'm watching TV and just kind of relaxed and you can really make a lot watching a movie and sitting back. It's pretty. You always put the longer part of the bent part of the washer towards the loop, and then the top part of the snare. And one thing I do that I noticed on the demonstration for the foot snare and the Lions that they had was a big loop on the back. It's another thing I like about my homemade snares. I always have a loop about that big for the same reason that he said. Because in most places, it doesn't work everywhere. Sometimes you can't go around it. There's nothing to go around. You got to stake or just use a different method. But usually you can just do this. And I saw with a lot of commercial snares, usually the loop wasn't big enough to do that. And it really adds to the quickness of hanging a snare when you can just go around a tree. On my fence snares, I just go around the bottom loop of the fence itself, the bottom strand of wire, because that's the strongest. With fence snaring though, I've got in the habit now of I'm even making longer fence snares just for my preference, and I hang them up. I hang them on the top wire. We get some snows at home. You get 2 feet of snow, you'll never find that snare if it's tied on the bottom of the fence. So even my fence snares are being made long, so it's an easy way to just find them. The snare wires at the top of the fence, and I can just, if I get snowed in, just run along on the skidoo and just pick them up with no problem. I know one day on one fence line I spent a long time with 7 or 8 snares just trying to dig them out, trying to find them, because I didn't want to leave them. Because them coyotes, they know. You can get 2 feet of snow and they know exactly where that hole was that they've been going through all summer. And if you lose a snare there, they're going to find it when you can't make it back to them snares. You're going to find them. For me, just even the cost makes it worthwhile. I figure depending on how much cable I buy at one time, due to just the more discount on the more cable, the price of each snare, it's worth it. And as you guys know, you catch one animal in these and they're gone. What I do in my skinning shed, I fill up a bucket with there's a lot of snares that I've caught animals in, and I reuse the wire again. The spots that look bad in it, I just cut it and throw it away. What I reuse them for is because I make a lot of long snares like this. So usually sometimes I have this much of the snare still. It's pretty good. You can even make a snare out of some of them. But I don't do that. I just go ahead. I usually got this loop still on them, and I just go ahead and make another loop here, and I got an extension now. Because I use baling wire to tie snares down, but only in situations that I can't use anything else. I use staples a lot, but I like this method where I can just sort of loop around something, and it adds, like I say, it adds to the speed of setting a snare. There's a lot of situations when I hang a snare, I'll just brush it aside for a day or two, and I won't hang it right at that time. And that's depending on the situation. But I feel with this kind of loop design that I use, most times I can just go in, hang a snare that same day, and leave it there, and I'm not worried about odor because it just took me 20 seconds to hang it. And as like the traps or snaring or anything, that's the most important factor, I believe, is the time at the set or the time hanging that snare. I first started really making long snares when I was snaring my beaver on dams, because I couldn't find a place to put a stake in on the dam, and I got tired of carrying 4-foot rebars to try and stake into the dam. So I started making 10-foot, 12 long snares, and just tie them off on the bank, and same thing, like I say, it was a lot quicker than trying to have a line of baling wire all the way to the bank. I stopped snaring beaver, though. I don't snare beaver no more unless it's maybe a damage complaint in the summer. I run all my beaver traps every day, but it just seems that there's always a little bit of snare damage on the beaver. And a lot of times it ain't even bad, but it's my preference now. I don't use snares for trapping on beaver. This is a 1/16 that they had out a while ago. I've caught a lot of cats with it. I've caught coyotes with it. I've lost a couple of coyotes with it, but those were tied definitely solid. I can see why I lost them. I like them for Martin. In early March, last of February, when I can do it, I like to go out, put the snowshoes on, take out the skidoo, and lay a Mountain Lion. And with these, it's just so easy to carry these because they don't weigh nothing.
And there's only 8 on the string.
Let's display that good-looking fur coat.
129 red fox.
You already got a picture of it at the rendezvous.
They're listed
Yeah, I know, but you didn't have the fur coat on. That looks nice.
Okay. 4 minutes to go. The countdown's coming.